The recent leak by Edward Snowden of the National Security Agency's domestic surveillance programs has reignited a debate about the role of whistleblowers. Snowden has been compared to Daniel Ellsberg, known for his release of the Pentagon Papers during the Vietnam War. I spoke with Ellsberg earlier today about why he thinks the NSA leak is the most important in history. Mr. Daniel Ellsberg, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
Appreciate it. Now, you have said that the Snowden release is the most important release of information in America, even overriding the release of the Pentagon Papers. And there are those, though, that say that Edward Snowden is a traitor. And I'm wondering, why do you think his actions are justified?
Well, I think he did a great benefit to this country by letting us know what the National Security Agency, the NSA, is doing for the president under both administrations, namely intervening in the privacy of every communication of every American who has an electronic device. And today that's 7-year-olds and 95-year-olds. It's just about everybody. It's very hard to imagine a democracy really surviving long with the government having that kind of ability to blackmail any given person.
But this ability has been given the thumbs up by 2 presidents, as you say, by the houses of Congress.
Yes, I would say it was an impeachable offense under George W. Bush, and it's an impeachable offense under Barack Obama. That isn't to say that either of them were likely to be impeached, but the fact is, the president cannot repeal an amendment of Congress, an amendment of the Constitution. Congress as a whole, let alone a majority in Congress, cannot rescind the 4th Amendment, which guarantees us privacy of our private communications without a specific writ, without a specific warrant by a court that's really been shown probable cause, reasonable grounds for suspicion. The document that Snowden has revealed shows that without any element of suspicion or cause, they feel obliged and permitted to look at all of our communications, essentially, and I would say to store them and record them, keep them indefinitely, and use them for whatever purpose they see. I don't think you can remain a democracy very long without that protection.
Well, some suggest that this war on terror, the reason we have these laws, is needed to be fought differently than the Vietnam War when the Pentagon Papers came out.
No doubt. It's a police matter in a way that the Vietnam War was not. Was to militarize it as it has been done, essentially has created far more recruits for Al-Qaeda, a genuine enemy of the United States, than if this had been done on a discriminate, selective police basis with the cooperation of police forces all over the world. Instead, we've converted by our attacks, for example, in Pakistan, the drone attacks. We've made ourselves the most hated nation in the world in Pakistan. That's dangerous. It's an unstable country with nuclear weapons and a fanatic Islamic faction that could get control of those weapons. I would say it was very reckless for us to be doing this drone attacks, just as an example.
You know, interestingly enough, there was a recent poll by the Washington Post and the Pew Center. Americans really are okay with what is going on. I
personally am quite hopeful that the revelations of unconstitutional behavior here and criminal behavior in this occasion will have a greater effect, and they already have sparked a great deal more call for investigation, for hearings. I would hope for a new select committee, like the Frank Church Committee, Senator Church Committee, that first investigated the NSA. More effect, I think, than Bradley Manning's revelations of criminal behavior, because that involved torture of foreigners and the killing of civilians over there. This is something that affects every American here in home, a home that, as we were just saying, that used to be regarded as a person's castle, but is no more.
But 2/3 of the American public, when polled, say that they want the government to investigate threats at the expense of security. Don't you find those numbers surprising at the very least? And what do you say to Americans who are willing to sacrifice their privacy?
John Adams, one of our first presidents, said that 1/3 of the population at the time of 1776 supported the revolution. 1/3 supported the empire, the king, the British Empire, and one larger, he said, in some areas like the New York area, perhaps half, and 1/3 were indifferent. That means that 2/3 of the people were willing to live under a king, not a president. I've come to believe in my old age here that that's always been true. That about 2/3 of the public are really much more concerned with their jobs, understandably, with their own security and their own welfare, than with what can be called freedoms or the values of a republic. But that leaves a large minority, and I hope we can get back to what our founders intended.
I have one quick final question. Are security, democracy, and secrecy compatible?
Yes. You know, it was candidate Obama who told us we didn't have to really choose between security and freedoms and privacy here. He was right. And when he inherited this system of tremendous invasion of privacy here and continued it, I have to say that didn't surprise me. But it is dismaying how many Democrats have actually swung over from opposing this when it was done under Bush to supporting it, exactly the same program and even an expanded program when it's done under Obama. That's not because the security situation has changed. It's a partisan matter that does them no credit. And I'm speaking of Senator Feinstein here very specifically and others. When Senator Wyden and Senator Utah have complained about this now for some years, but have told us they couldn't tell us what it was that they found dangerous. They thought it would be stunning. Well, a lot of the American public has found it stunning. I would say that it's regrettable to think we have a system where even many members of Congress have had to say, I learned what was being done here from Edward Snowden, a private employee here, because he took the risk of his life here, his life in prison possibly, to inform me, a congressperson. That's not the way it should be. We have to change that.
Mr. Daniel Ellsberg, thank you so much for your perspective and your time today.
Thank you.